You're listening to the Wandering Wild podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to Wandering Wild. Today's episode is a really special one, and it's really personal for me. I'm sitting down with my mom, and together we'll talk about my sister Gracie, who passed away from a congenital heart defect, often called CHD. It's something that shaped my family in ways that are hard to fully explain, but today we wanted to share a little bit of that story. In this episode is part of something called Podcasthon, where podcasters around the world dedicate an episode to highlighting a nonprofit doing meaningful work. The organization I chose to highlight is Intermountain Healing Hearts, which supports families who have members with congenital heart defects or families who have experienced the loss of a child. They provide support groups, events, community, financial support, and ongoing support and connection for parents and families navigating something that can be incredibly hard. My mom and I talk about Gracie, about grief, about what it's like to move forward after loss, and about how important it is to have support during those moments. So this conversation is a vulnerable one, but it's also about love, family, and remembering someone who mattered deeply. Let's get into it.
Hi, everybody. I'm here with my mom. I'm so excited to have her today. This is Jenny Bradshaw. We're doing it over Zoom because unfortunately she's in Puerto Rico and I'm in Australia, which isn't unfortunate, just that we're not together. Yeah, is the unfortunate part. Yeah. But today we're going to talk about something really special to us, I guess, really close to our hearts, which is my baby sister, Gracie, who we lost in 2016. But we'll start with before. Gracie was a surprise, and there was actually 8 years difference between Dylan, our littlest boy, and Gracie. What was that like finding out you're pregnant?
We were pretty surprised. And at first we were like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? We had moved to Puerto Rico about a year before we found out we were pregnant with Gracie. And so, I don't know, we were to the point where we were deciding if we should go back to Utah or if we should stay in Puerto Rico. And there was a lot going on at the time. I felt like it was like a decision-making point. And then we got pregnant with Gracie and we were really surprised. We were shocked, and we hadn't had a baby for 8 years. So it sounds like, well, we already had 4 kids, so what's the big deal? One more. But after 8 years, it kind of feels like you're done with the baby stage and, everything. So it was a big surprise, but then we kind of like wrapped our heads around it and were really excited. And I remember when we first told you all, and Ashley started crying. And she said, I've been dreaming about babies. It was really sweet.
Yeah.
So,
fun fact about me is I knew when my mom was pregnant with Dawn and Dylan before you did, didn't I?
I don't remember, but probably you're really intuitive.
I remember asking you where they were going to sleep and you didn't know what I was talking about or something. I don't remember. But yeah, I was having dreams about babies before.
Yeah.
How did you, what made you think that you were pregnant?
I think I was late on my period.
That makes sense.
So I remember I took like a pregnancy test and then I didn't believe that it was true. And so then I went and got 2 different blood tests, kind of in denial a little bit. And then it was positive. And so and then we got really excited. So we actually had like a scare for a miscarriage at around 6 weeks. And then we really realized how much we wanted this baby.
Yeah.
When everything
I remember, I thought it was a joke because you guys put the letter magnets on the fridge and they told us to like solve it. And it said we're having another baby. And we were like, oh, it's a joke. It's not real.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom was like, are you getting a dog? Because everyone knew we were done having kids.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go back to Utah? Was it because of Gracie or was it because I know we
Yeah.
all kind of felt like it was time, but I don't know how much
Yeah.
of a factor that was.
I think at the time we were making that decision and I was really sick, like really bad morning sickness. I think that kind of spiraled me into a more quick decision, which I don't know. I think I got really afraid to have a baby in Puerto Rico, which I kept telling myself, people have babies here every day. Why would I be so scared, Because I know you can have a baby in Puerto Rico. It's fine. And now, I mean, I'm not having another baby, but to be so afraid of it. Now that we've been here a long time, we know a lot of people, but then I was really nervous and I just kept having this feeling like we had to leave and go back to Utah. So I think we made the decision to go back to Utah, and 10 days later we were in Utah. So it was also really fast. Do you remember we gave all of our stuff away?
Yeah, I remember. We just got rid of
Donated
everything.
We
Into my
sold our
grandparents'
car.
basement.
And then we decided, we asked Ashley's grandparents if we could stay for 2 months while we found a place to stay. I'm going to keep going on the story.
Yeah, keep going.
And then after 2 months, we found out that Gracie had a congenital heart defect and we knew it was really serious. And so we knew that she would have to have surgery right after she was born. So then we decided to stay with Ashley's grandparents through that whole year so that we could have like us be in the hospital and the kids be at home with their grandparents while we were helping Gracie through all of her surgeries and stuff like that. So it really was a gift to be able to do that at the time.
Yeah. It was kind of not the perfect situation, obviously, but as good as it could have been, I feel like.
Yeah, we were really lucky to have them be so welcoming. Yeah.
When you found out that she had a congenital heart defect, you had known nothing about it before, right?
Right.
Or you did?
I had no idea about those kind of heart defects or that she might have something else.
That about the kinds of heart defects.
No, we had no idea. We just had 4 super healthy kids, really easy, and so we never really had problems like that. We hadn't had any congenital heart defects that we knew of in our families, either one of them. A lot of them are genetic, but we don't think that Gracie's was. So it was a real shocker. I remember the lady was doing my ultrasound and she just stopped. And she's not allowed to say anything because she's not a doctor. So she just stopped and she just kept looking and looking and looking at her heart. And she said, she said, I'm not supposed to say anything, but something's really wrong. I need to go get the doctor. So that's when they told us.
So scary.
Yeah, it was really scary.
But I feel like something I've learned from this is that like the human body is so complex. So every heart there's so much, and the brain, there's so much, and everything, there's so much. It has to be right and in the right place and come at the right time and the right size and everything. Yeah. So every healthy human in the world is such a huge, I feel like it's an anomaly. Like it's such a miracle that things just work the way that they do.
Yeah, I remember.
But unfortunately,
we had lots of appointments with surgeons and doctors before she was born. And I remember asking one of the doctors, I said, how did this happen? And he said, how does this not happen? He said, so many things have to go right for someone to come out just right, with no problems at all. And that kind of opened my eyes. And then we found out that 1 in 100 births, I don't know if this is just in the U.S. or where this statistic comes from, but I couldn't look it up. But 1 in 100 births, the baby has a congenital heart defect. So it's actually very common.
So that's really common.
Yeah, it could be like a small hole. I think one of your nieces or nephews had like a small hole, and those are often grown out of, like they just watch it and they close on their own. So some are just tiny problems, some are crazy problems. Gracie's is pretty common as far as heart defects go.
Yeah. What was hers?
Hers was go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was so young, so I remember all of the feelings, but I don't remember any of the, I don't know any of the medical stuff really.
I think we got a degree in baby hearts in this specific heart defect, just during that time. But we had a hypoplastic right heart, which means the right side of her heart didn't develop. So one of her valves, I'll just keep it simple. One of her valves didn't have blood flow. And so that side of her heart couldn't develop. So when her heart went to pump, only one side could pump. And so they have a fix for this. They can run blood flow through her heart without the pumping, but it requires a surgery where they run different pathways to the heart. And then blood will just flow through the right side of the heart rather than pumping. I mean, it's not ideal, but kids do have this surgery and do pretty well.
Yeah. And for reference, the size of a baby's heart is what? Like the size of a walnut? Like this big or
really
something?
super tiny.
So to do surgery on that, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that they can do surgery on a teeny little heart. So when Gracie was 5 days old, she had her open heart surgery. So they have to do surgery on this newborn tiny baby with this tiny little heart. Everything has to go just right for that to work. And there's complications that you can't predict. Like you don't know what their body is going to do. And also they do ultrasounds before the baby is born. So they're doing like echocardiograms through my body to check her heart while she's like moving around and whatever,
Yeah.
And so after they're born is when they have to really find out what their defect is. Like they told us hypoplastic right heart, and that was really clear that her right side of her heart wasn't developed, but they didn't know originally. They told us a different reason. So they said that one valve wasn't working, but it was also actually the other valve. So they don't know what they're going to do when they're born for sure. They have to do echoes on that baby, like, right when they're born.
Yeah.
So do you remember the night she was born?
Yeah, I do. I remember, I don't remember a ton of details, but I remember we knew when you were going to have her. It's not like you went into labor. It was all planned. And I remember like we couldn't be there because it was really complicated. But then I remember once you had her, we came and we were just like, she wasn't there. So we just had to like stand there waiting. But then they brought her in the, what's it called? The box.
Yeah. It's like a medical.
And I just was like amazed. Oh, there she is. So I don't know. For me, like I wanted a sister so bad my whole entire life. I would tell my mom, if you have another baby, I'll take care of it. Like you don't have to do anything. Yeah. Can you please have a sister? And so for me, like the whole thing, like finding out you're pregnant and then like the finding out she was a girl, I was so attached to the whole experience. Like even your whole pregnancy and everything, I felt really like attached to all of it. And so
I think that's
when I
cool.
finally saw her, I was just like, oh my gosh, there she is. That's my sister.
Yeah.
And I remember we got to like touch her hair she had so much hair. And then eventually we got to hold her.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They didn't plan
What was
that.
it?
It was supposed to be she's born and they take her, put her through she was born in a room next to the NICU so that there was like this little opening in the door they could open. So she's born and they take her and put her straight through this room. Like I didn't even touch her. And then they put her in this room and they did like IVs and all this stuff into her umbilical cord, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
I mean, it's really cool that they can do that. And that's such a great pathway for an infant. And then we thought, okay, we won't see her. So the hospital I delivered at is connected to the children's hospital. So there's just this walkway. So the plan is to have the baby at this big hospital, put her straight into the NICU, and then we would see her for the first time at the children's hospital. But then they surprised everyone and brought her into the room.
Yeah,
which
I
was
do
really
remember that.
cool. Yeah.
And I remember also, I didn't think we were going to be able to take her out, but we
Yeah.
before, which was really
I never
special.
expected them to take her out of that thing. It looked like a little spaceship.
Yeah.
She was all connected to all this stuff. And I think they were kind of like, she had to be really stable for them to take her out and let everyone have a turn holding her.
Yeah. Did you get to hold her at all or see her when she was born, or she just was gone?
Nope, she was delivered and they took her and put her through a window and they took care of her in there. And then this really sweet nurse took Ashley's dad's phone, and took it into the NICU and took like 100 pictures of her in there. She was mostly screaming. But that was the best
Yeah,
thing
but
to hear
that
her.
was like huge. Yeah. And so you can see that she's okay.
Yeah, so that was really cool.
Leading up to her surgery, what was it like then? Because I remember before her surgery, things felt, I mean, you were in the hospital, but it felt like fairly normal baby stuff. But then after her surgery, it was like she looked different and it was also complicated. You couldn't like move around with her because she had all these cords attached to her. It was a lot.
It was
What do you
complicated.
remember about before her surgery?
So before, she was just a normal baby. Originally, she was totally fine. There's this valve that's open before babies are born, and that allows for blood flow to your heart. After about 5 days, that valve closes naturally. And so they have to get, or maybe it's sooner than 5 days, they give her medication to keep that open. So that medication caused like some breathing issues. And so at first she was just like normal, like a really healthy looking baby, just laying there doing all her tests. And it was still kind of hard to hold her because they were doing so much with her. And then she needed help breathing. So they put in like a high flow oxygen. Then she did really well and she seemed really normal, like not a normal baby, because we're like in the cardiac ICU and they're like not letting me feed her on a normal schedule or anything because they don't know if they're going to have to do surgery at any point. They might have to do emergency surgery. So there's this really strict schedule with feeding. She had one bottle. It was just really strict, but she seemed to do well. And then around day 5, she really changed. Like I could tell, I was not ready for this surgery, but around day 5, when she seemed like she was kind of declining. It was harder for her to breathe. I thought like this baby needs that surgery right now. So it got me ready for it. And she'd had tons of tests and, they had like gone through, I can't remember, they did this test where they did a scope up looking into all of her veins and arteries. And so she'd already had like a lot of different things before her big surgery.
Yeah. Did she have only one surgery? But she was supposed to have another.
Yeah. So over time, if your baby, like the plan is to have 3 surgeries. The first one's when they're like 5 days old, in between like those first days. Then the second is like 2 or 3 years old. And then after that, they're supposed to have one more surgery. So it's all dependent on their size. So if they grow, they need like a different surgery to kind of upgrade their repair so that it works for their growing heart. So there was originally not scheduled, but supposed to be 3 different surgeries. So she had a lot of cath labs, which is where they like go in and look at things. So those she sedated for, and we called those surgeries. And then she had her open heart surgery, which is like the big, long surgery and really stressful.
Yeah.
And really hard on a newborn.
I remember being in the Ronald McDonald's room and just like waiting to hear anything.
Yeah. I have pictures of you guys just like laying on the tables. It was really emotional, but you guys were old enough to be a part of it. So if you had been, 3 and 4 years old, we may not have had you there so often with like for the big things, but you were older, like Dylan was 8 and so you were 12. And so a 12-year-old can really understand and be a part of this at some level,
Yeah.
And it was kind of a family event, you know?
Yeah.
I have pictures of you guys just laying there and being patient, and we tried to distract you. Can't really distract from that, you know?
No. I remember they had like a craft room or something though that we would go. I remember I made her like a label for her bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
just like a weird, it's like kind of a weird experience. Like it's not something that I feel like, I don't know. Like it's just a weird, not a normal experience to have. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
the
didn't
whole
have
thing
that.
of it, like basically like living in the hospital, at least for you guys.
Yeah.
And like grandma and grandpa taking care of us a lot and just spending hours in the hospital waiting for us to hear about surgeries and going in the craft room and it's just all like a weird experience to have had, I guess.
Yeah, and it feels like a forever experience. Like it was so long, right? It just feels
Yeah,
like a
it
year.
feels like years.
Yeah.
But it was
It's so
5
short.
weeks.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's so compact, and it was so serious and so intense and minute by minute, you know? And so I think that's why it feels so long, because when you're in these intense situations, your memory's fighting so much. So I think it feels so long, and it was big. I didn't have that kind of experience until was that age, so you having that experience when you're 12 is really very
it's weird,
impactful.
but I feel like, impactful, I guess would be the right word for that. What was it like for you the weeks that you were in the hospital? I feel like you guys were there all the time, really.
We slept at home a lot because they were saying in the hospital, they try to teach parents that you have to take care of yourself. So you're in this tunnel vision in the hospital, and even leaving the hospital, I remember thinking, people are still doing things. People are still living life and going to the grocery store and working. It seemed impossible that there was anything else happening in the world, you know? So it was like you're laser focused, you're there. And then in the hospital, though, they really focus on you need to take care of yourself, because there's parents that go crazy. They can't handle anything because they haven't gotten any sleep. They haven't been eating, but you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of that baby and be on. Like we were on every single day. Dad and I, like, we walked in that door waiting for answers and keeping track of medications and what was happening, and we are just learning all this. So we did sleep at home most nights, but otherwise we were like out the door early in the morning, getting home late at night. Yeah. So I'm sure that was a lot for you guys. And grandma and grandpa took really good care of you. Grandma did all my laundry the entire time. It was such a gift. Like, I don't know how
we really, really needed them. Like taking us well, I guess this happened over this. Yeah, were we still in school when this was happening in April?
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah. Because I remember grandma taking me to school, but I also remember constantly being pulled out of school and skipping school. And
because there were only certain hours that you could see the baby, because they have really strict rules in the cardiac ICU. So you really have to work your schedule around it, and remember only the number of people could be in the room at the same time. So that you kids would have to split up to come in. And then there were days you could hold her and days you couldn't hold her. It was very intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
She went through a lot. Her little body took a lot in that short amount of time.
Girl. I remember the contrast between like when she was born and she was just like glowing and healthy, and then after, and she was like it was like if you got to see her eyes, it was like special. Like if she was awake, she's awake, which I like always thought was normal. It wasn't till after her that I realized that that's not normal for a baby to just like sleep all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they sleep a lot, but because I also remember being like, oh, when do babies start smiling? Someone was like, oh, well, she already would have she's always on so much medication.
Yeah, they had to sedate her a lot.
Quite the journey.
Well, I think this subject, like, I feel like we've gotten so good at talking about this kind of like matter of factly, like this is what happened. And it's so easy to stay in the not emotion because you're like, this is what, and like, I feel like we're explaining the emotion behind it, but to be there and to, you're just so in it. And so I think we're so good at, like, I like how you're expressing how you felt because it's also about, how, like, I would get so into it and all the medical things and all the like things that had to happen in a day. And like, if a nurse didn't give her medication on time or if, something didn't happen. And so I had to constantly remind myself, just enjoy her, just enjoy her, like, just be her mom and just like hold her and love her and just give her that experience of being your baby, So I think that's where it's more emotional is where it's out of the medical and you're in this experience with this newborn that is in this kind of cold environment and you just want her to feel safe and loved. And it was hard when you couldn't hold her. She just had to lay there, and she was asleep a lot. Yeah, like sedated. And then do you remember when they would take her off medications and she would go through withdrawals? So she would have like...
I remember that happened, but I don't remember details about it.
Yeah, she would like sneeze a lot or she would cry a lot, but her body was having withdrawals from narcotics and, sedatives.
And she's like 3 weeks old. Yeah. It's awful to have to experience that. And the whole thing, having to like go to the hospital cafeteria to get food and having to go in and get your name tag to go visit and watching her go through that and going to like, I don't like the hospital, like going to the hospital every single day and knowing that she lives there, and that's her whole world. And it's really like emotional on so many different levels.
Yeah. Right.
Like it's not just sad, it's like scary and I don't know. I don't know. Also, it's just like you're not a doctor, so you can't do anything,
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just leaving her up to people you don't know. And she had great nurses, but I don't know.
Yeah, but you really have to advocate for them and what you think they need and speak up. And so there's a lot of that. But yeah, so she did really well. Well, we thought her surgery went really well, but then she had some complications and then she started doing well again. And then, that's when we were getting ready to bring her home. Remember?
We like bought a car seat, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, like soon before she had her big complication.
Yeah, so they make you do a car seat test before you can take them home to make sure they can sit in the car seat without their oxygen going down or having a problem. So we had the car seat ready for the car seat test. I can't remember if we'd done the car seat test the night before. So I don't know. We were really close to bringing her home. I think we had checked all the boxes to bring her home. I was pretty sure it was going to be a couple of days, maybe the next day.
Yeah, it was so unexpected.
Yeah. So do you want to tell them what happened?
I can tell them my version. I remember being at Grandma and Grandpa's house in the basement, and we knew that something was wrong because I think we were at maybe we were at the cabin or something and had to drive home, and we were in their basement and we were watching Divergent. And Grandma didn't want us to know anything was wrong, but she kept leaving the room and coming back, and you could just tell she had been crying. We're all like, they're not telling us what's going on, but we know something's wrong, and so we're like, I don't know, at least I was kind of freaking out and not paying attention to the movie at all and just like feeling like I don't want to ask, but like also what is happening. And I remember you guys coming home and just were so upset and explaining to us what happened, from which I understand she had a blood clot, or one of her valves got clogged or something, and they had to do CPR on her for 40 minutes. And because of that, she wasn't having oxygen or blood flow or both, I don't know, going to her brain. And I remember that you had talked to the doctors and they said that if we had the option to, like, she was on life support. Basically, we had the option to try and keep her alive or to turn off the machines and let her go. And if we kept her, like, if we tried to keep her alive, they weren't sure she was going to survive anyways. And she would have severe brain damage from having CPR for so long. And that her ribs were broken. So just like a lot of things. And I remember, you guys asked us. We were all just like obviously really upset. And you guys asked us if we think, and we were all like, we have to let her go, which was heartbreaking. Also to like have the decision, it's not like she just died. It was a decision that needed to be made, which I think was hard, but also good because we did get the chance to like go to the hospital. And I remember they talked us through it a little bit, explained it to us. They gave us teddy bears or something to draw.
Oh, yeah.
And we did her footprints. And so it was good because everyone got to say goodbye. But yeah, it was hard.
Yeah, it was hard. That's like the impossible decision.
Yeah. But it was like, I don't know, to me it felt like a no-brainer because it just was like everything that she had gone through already and then asking her to go through more.
Yeah.
It didn't seem fair. Yeah. I'm glad that we got to have those last moments and to have the experience also of like when we were all in the room together and they turned off the machines and I remember we sat there, like watched her heart rate eventually flatten, but which is like an impossible experience to have, it's impossibly hard to like have to watch that. It was like really special to be there with all of you. I feel like I'm so close. Our family's so close. I feel like, and especially with like the boys, with my brothers, I feel like super close with them. And I feel like a big part of that is that we had that experience together. Like we sat in that room and cried and watched her die and hugged each other and I don't know, like I think I remember being in there and like when the nurse turned it off, we were like hysterical. Like we were all like crying. And then she flatlined and everything like calmed down, I feel like. And it was just like the most intense peace and horror, which was really weird to experience, but it was really just like frantic, hysterical crying and then like so much peace. And I just felt like, okay, this was the right thing that needed to happen and just a lot of reassurance. And then we got to hold her without her cords, which was weird because we had never done that since the day that she was born. So
and it was kind of like she was free from all that stuff she had to do,
It was like, I don't know. It was hard, but it was, like they said, she's free.
Yeah. Just was a lot to go through. And we didn't know, if that's the right thing to include you guys in that. But again, you were older, so it was kind of like, you're such a big part of it. It was like you're at the hospital every day. It felt wrong to do that, just like being dad.
Yeah.
It felt like.
I'm really glad that you did.
And the boys have said the same thing. Like, it felt so peaceful. Like, I remember leaving and, hard to talk about, but we were like, well, first of all, I remember like handing her to the nurse. And the nurse just like held her like so nice, it was just like she like was still rocking her. And I thought that was so sweet. And then I remember leaving and Dylan, he's 8, and he's like, Mom, I felt so much peace in that room. He's like, I don't think I can ever be sad about this. And he's like, I mean, he really was like, I'm never going to be sad about this, which obviously he was, but he just, I think that kind of like you described it perfectly. You all were like hysterically crying. It was so loud. All of your crying. And I remember being worried because there was a kid in the next room on life support. And I was like, and we're in this room, not like with glass, but it's just curtains.
Yeah.
And closed, and no one can see us. But anyway, I was like, maybe we need to be quiet,
I remember you guys saying, like, you guys need to be a little bit, like, quiet because
But
there's
then
other kids in
Dad
here.
was like,
and I just
"No,
was like,
just let them
wait,
cry."
other people, like you said, you get so sucked into the experience. When he said that, I was like, wait, other things exist besides what's happening.
Yeah. But then I think we decided, and I think Dad said it, like, just let them cry. So then it was so loud. It was so crazy. And then, yeah, you're right. It just got really calm. Before she died, I think everyone calmed down and was really quiet. And it just felt like peaceful, kind of, Yeah. It's a very big experience.
Yeah.
12-year-old. And we knew that going
I
in.
mean, it's a big experience for you too, It's just like something you shouldn't have to do.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the right thing to ever have to do that, or for someone to go through that much pain, or for, you guys to have to experience that. It's a lot, but it did kind of transition our lives into a different, I just think you can see the value of relationships and friendships and people, and, it's a little more serious, and
Yeah.
the value of like compassion and helping people, and things matter. And it's not like everything matters, but I don't know, guess you just realize that life isn't forever.
Yeah. I feel like that has had a huge impact on why I love to travel, and like not even travel, like maybe not even travel, but just like get out of my comfort zone and do things that are uncomfortable, and like not waiting around to do things because I say it all the time, but like you have no idea how long it's gonna last. And like I think people say that all the time, like your life, don't know how long it is. But like really like going through that experience, and like we said, like having her be so good, and then all of a sudden, it's like that, and none of us expected it. um and then also like spending time with people, I feel like it's kind of stressful sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, I want to, like, there's all these people I love all over the world, and I want to like spend time with everybody, because I'm like, what if there's also like maybe that aspect of it that isn't as healthy for me to be thinking most of the time.
Yeah.
But I do. I'm like, never, like, if something happened to one of the boys, like, I would be heartbroken that I'm in Australia and not at home right now,
But you can't be everywhere doing everything, just in case. Because mostly things go right.
Yeah.
But you're right. After a big experience like that, you do see the world in a different way. Not necessarily in a horrible way, just kind of in an importance. It gives a little more value to things that you do, I think. And it's not the only experience that gives that, but it sure is one of them.
What was it like for you and Dad, like saying goodbye? And because it's different for you guys because you're the parents, and you also have 4 other kids that you're thinking about. What was it like for you guys?
I think after that, we probably cried every night and morning for like a year. I don't know. We just like lay in bed crying, and then it's hard because you are emotionally supporting other people too. So you can't just like crawl into a hole and not do your life. So we would just get up and do our life, and really life goes on. So you don't have permission to just do nothing. You're still taking people to do things. And then obviously we want to be with you. It's not like this burden to take care of you emotionally. We want to do that. And I think some people had to fill in some gaps for me during that time. Got a lot of good friends who helped. Like they would take you guys to do things, or, family that was awesome and like very supportive. I don't know what we would have done without our family. So I think it's something you can't ever prepare yourself for, you know? It was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, for sure. But I mean, it's hard. I went through like a lot of phases, all the phases of grief a lot of times, I think, you know,
Yeah.
even like crazy stuff where I like was convinced the hospital didn't tell me everything. And I went and I made them print all of her vitals for like a few days and I analyzed them. And, you know, like that's not really funny, but it's kind of like me going crazy. Like something was wrong that they didn't tell me about, or, you know, just stuff like that. There's all these different phases. I don't know. I just think there's a lot to losing a loved one that is something you can't explain and something you can't expect other people to have the same experience.
Yeah.
I was glad that Dad came to the hospital every day, because it could have easily been like he had to work and so I would go and he would stay home or whatever, you know, but he really didn't work that whole time. I mean, barely. His work, the people that were his biggest clients were really understanding, and luckily, so we had a lot of space. And I feel like because we did that together, I think
Yeah.
we had a lot more like in common in our grief. Like, I think if we had done it separately and not been in it together, it would have been harder. But I think we
Yeah.
were like really in it, like every day together, going at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So,
It's really good that you had each other in that. I
yeah.
feel
And
like.
we had you guys and you were awesome. And I feel like we tried to be good at communicating. It was a lot of communicating. I don't know how well we did, because it's like you are in a cloud. So you do your best and do life, but you don't really know for a year what you were doing. I feel like for a year, I kind of just was doing what I had to do and trying to be like a really good mom and a really good support and do all the things. But I don't know how I did. I don't know
I
if
think you did great.
took you aside enough and had private conversations, or if I was willing to go into your pain and your grief, you know. And I mean, I know I made you go to some counseling and stuff, but
Well, it's a lot to take on, though. It's like you're already experiencing so much pain of your own. To take on someone else's, even if it's your child, that's a lot to ask of somebody.
yeah, I think it's what you have to do, but no one knows how to do it because they haven't done it before. So
Right.
just do your
Yeah,
best.
and
Yeah.
there's no guidelines for that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you have to give yourself some space to be okay with how you did. I remember thinking that, okay, well, I'm doing as well as I can do. I have to give myself some permission, some grace.
You do, because, like, yeah, it's just an impossible situation. And it's like, especially as a mom, I feel like you're managing so much. Because, just to grieve is like so much. But then also to have kids, you have to be responsible for it. Yeah.
And that you
I can
want
imagine it
to
was.
be responsible for. You want them to be happy. You want them to heal in the right way and heal well and experience the fullness of whatever this experience is, you know? So,
Yeah. It's kind of a weird, like, I remember feeling like it was weird because for us, like, it was years before we were like, I mean, even still now, it's so sad. But, like, I remember, like, she passed and then her funeral, and we had, like, so much support. And then I feel like the support, I mean, we still had a lot of support, but it wasn't, like, the thing going on anymore, kind of. And
mhm.
so it was, like, some of the support, or people started to move on, kind of, and we weren't there at all. And so it was kind of weird to start to lose that. And yeah, weird. I remember being in middle school, and it was so hard for me to make friends because I just like I couldn't relate to, like, I mean, you can't expect like 13-year-old girls to understand what you're going through and like be there for you and support, it's like I just can't understand it if you haven't experienced it, and you can't know how to react. So I feel like if I talked about it, it made people uncomfortable. And then not talking about it, it's like I would try, and all these my friends are talking about like toys and all this stuff, and I'm like, do you guys not understand that this doesn't matter? And now, like, I understand, like, that matters too, you know? And it's okay to, like, talk about that stuff. But at the time, I was like, you guys don't understand life. Like, you don't know what's important. You don't understand that this actually is meaningless. And that's just kind of how I felt. And so it was really difficult for me to relate to people my own age because I just had this really heavy experience that no one else in my age range that I knew had ever experienced, you know? It's kind of, yeah, and I was just in this cloud of like, this is the only thing that matters in the whole world.
Yeah. And you had lived in Puerto Rico the year before. So it wasn't like we were as established when we went back. We weren't living in the same neighborhood. We didn't have, it was a different experience. So that was different too. I think you had started that middle school for the first time.
Yeah,
when we
I
went
think,
back.
yeah.
Maybe before Gracie was born. I feel like all of that was new. You were like living this island life, kind of doing our own thing, and then go to middle school, which it's already a challenge when you're 13 or 12 years old.
And I've been homeschooled since I was in 3rd grade. So going to school at all was like really scary for me.
Right.
I didn't know how to do it. And then, middle school on top of that.
It's a lot. And now, look, like you're brave. You are willing to take on things but really those things kind of stack up and become who you are. So going through not only what we went through with Gracie, but moving to Puerto Rico and then moving back and then starting middle school and then pushing yourself to make new friends and do different things. And, you were in school plays and in like this, like musical theater and, just all of these things that you did and that the boys did, and pushing yourselves to get out of your comfort zone, I think creates this person who is capable of doing that as an adult.
Yeah, I think it's true. Like a lot of little experiences and a lot of big experiences, like you said, stacking up. What do you remember about after she passed away? Like, what was it like? I don't know, like, it just seems like so much, like what you had to do. I know you say, like, you had to, like, plan a funeral and, like, the headstone. And
that was really
like,
hard.
what was, yeah.
Planning the funeral was easier because we had so much help, but it was so fast. Looking back, it was so fast. I think we didn't call it a funeral, and we did it in Ashley's grandparents' backyard. And it was
a life celebration.
We called it a life celebration. And we didn't want it to be all sad and dreary. So we had these beautiful flowers everywhere. It was upbeat. It was outside. Awesome food. We all
wore like colorful clothes.
We had, colorful clothes, and we had hundreds of people come. I mean, people were so supportive. It was a beautiful celebration. We had so much help planning that. We even had a restaurant, one of Dad's clients, that donated all of the food for this huge meal for like 500 people. I mean, it was ridiculous. And in a good way.
The biggest party you'll ever throw.
Besides maybe like a wedding. Yeah. So and maybe that isn't even that big. So we tried to make her celebration a real celebration of her life, because that's what we wanted to celebrate, having her. She was such a gift. It was such a miracle that we had a baby 8 years after Dylan, and it was the most beautiful thing, really, to have this love and have this baby in our lives that we all got to baby. We all got to take care of her in some way and really embrace that we ever got her. That was the celebration of her life and the gift she was to everyone. So that was easier because people were coming in town and they were helping with the flowers, and it was like really fast. So I actually think it was a huge distraction for days, but it was only like 3 days, I think.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look at the dates, but I swear it was 3 days later, we're having this huge thing. And then after that, I think, like you said, things kind of settle down. People go back to life, and you don't really go back to life. I think that it settles in that you're missing someone in your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think, after is hard. Obviously, I guess. But
Of course. But yeah, it's just a lot. And I feel like, though, like you said, so many people came. People who had never met her, people who I had never met, were like there to support us, but not just like supporting us, like so like affected by this. Like, I think Gracie only lived for 5 weeks. Her life and her death affected hundreds of people. And not just the people who were there, but like the people in the hospital, like her nurses and my friends and your friends and Dad's friends and our family. Yeah. It was like cool. That celebration, one of the cool things for me was to see that, like, whoa, her life had so short, but it had so much meaning to it and made such a big impact.
it did.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was Dad, because I was feeling so protective of her that I didn't want to share her with anyone. I was, besides the family, I was like, I was big, like mama bear protective. And I think I was so overwhelmed, and that was like all I could do was just be her mom. And Dad would put on social media, like, what happened that day. And we had that group. Remember, we had that private group
Cluster.
that
Yeah.
people joined. And I think there's like 350 people in that group that were following kind of her journey day to day. And Dad usually did all the updates. I just didn't have it in me at all. But I think that allowed for her to be in everyone's heart rather than
Yeah.
how I was just so protective.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good part of how Dad and I are different, and he could do that and be external little, and I just could not. And so I think that really made an impact so that other people really were thinking about her and following her progress. And I think there was so much positive energy going forward, like into her life because of that. So much love and compassion, and that was a really big gift.
Yeah. I'm grateful to have that stuff now. I don't know if you've ever gone back to read it, but sometimes I do. And it's
Yeah.
cool to like have a recount, especially like I said, like as I was 12 and then now I'm older and I can like read it and see it through kind of a different perspective, like understand things a little bit better, I guess, like the more like logistical things, I guess, and it's cool to see it, and also just the pictures. And I feel like we have the memory and like the emotion. I always like I think about her all the time. I always have like that memory and the emotions. It's not something you ever really fully move on from. But when I don't know, there's certain things like looking at pictures or watching videos or reading those that I like to do every once in a while because I feel like it brings back like specifics and like details, not just like an overarching memory, but like, I don't know, like the texture of her blanket when I would hold her and like the feeling of her hair. But yeah, like the way things smelled and like even things down to like the weight, like we carry. It's kind of sad. Me and my brothers carried her casket during her funeral. And like, I can remember how heavy it was. And so even like little things like that.
There are things you don't want to forget.
Yeah.
Like I
It's like,
remember holding her thinking like, this is how she feels. This is how much weight. So when I hold a baby now, I think like, this feels like how she felt, you know?
yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was in Utah, I held one of the babies and I was like, I don't think I had held a baby since Gracie, which is weird because I used to always be around babies. And then since then, I don't know. I just like, and I was holding the baby and I was like, this is so weird. I don't know. I felt almost uncomfortable, but it was good.
Yeah, there are things that remind you of her and they can make you feel uncomfortable, or you can, keep practicing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
nervous
And
because I think, oh, I'm going to hold this baby and then I'm going to feel so bad. Then I've never felt that way. And I love holding
yeah.
babies. Like I'll hold the baby
Yeah.
every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels like, to me, it feels special. When I was holding the baby, I was like, I like kind of threw me off a little bit because it started to bring back memories, but I also just was like, this is so special. And to hold a baby and with no cords and to be able to walk around and just, it's so special.
Yeah, it is.
How do you feel like it's affected you now still? Like, I mean, of course, it's still sad sometimes and everything, but how do you feel like you're different because of it?
I feel like I'm way different. I think I'm more willing to face fearful things. I think I don't know. It's kind of a hard question. Because in some ways I am willing to face fearful things, but I'm also like things I'm afraid of, but I'm also more picky about the things that like prioritizing the things that are important to me. I don't let a lot of things take over when I don't know. Like one thing for me that is interesting is I've worked really hard to simplify my life and to have it so that I can spend time with you guys. So if one of the boys walks into the kitchen and they want to talk to me, I'm available. And that sounds like such a boring life to some people that are just busy all the time, but I really like having this space to be able to do those things. So I've created this life that has some space for that. And I am busy a lot, but I like to have those moments are so important to me. Like if you want to talk to me on the phone, I'm like all about that, you know?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I miss your phone call. And it's not just because I'm obsessed with you, because I am, but like also it's because I curated my life to be this way so that I can prioritize my family and my friends and the people that I care about and are close to me. And does that mean I can all the time? No, obviously I'm busy a lot and can't do like every moment and be like, what do you need? What do you need? It's not like that. It's just being more available. I don't know. I think that's part of coming from Gracie because I don't find value in like my value doesn't come from being busy and being like, important. My value comes from small things. Like I feel like those little moments when you're with a friend and they talk to you about like or just you're having fun with someone or one of you guys wants to talk about anything. It could be fun. I'm not talking about like serious talks all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Or if dad wants to go hang out, or I don't know. I think those things are just more valuable to me. And maybe they're important to everyone. And maybe I just needed this. That's just part of my experience. But I feel like that's a little different. I don't know. I don't know if moving here, the second round had a lot to do with her. It really reminds me of her here in Puerto Rico. I feel like I connect with her here more than in Utah, which is interesting. So that could be a part of it. I don't know. I feel like I parent way differently than I did before. I feel like my parenting style shifted 100% in a totally different direction. I don't know if it's 100%. And sometimes I'm not sure what it's from, but I'm sure I can attribute a lot of it to Gracie because I feel like before I was always rushed and always on a schedule and always had to have everything perfect. And then after, it's like people matter more than any of those things.
Yeah, I've noticed that, but I thought it was your concussion.
Well, I know sometimes I think it was the concussion. Because I mean, it's probably and I'm like,
I know that's.
So I always want to ask a professional.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that's such a big question that I asked you because the thing is, like, you did have a concussion and you lost Gracie, and you also left the church, and you also moved to Puerto Rico, and like you had a lot of big things happen in like the span of a couple of years. So I'm sure Gracie has influenced so much of it and changed you a lot, but also probably those other things have also. I mean, you're a completely different person than you were.
That's how I feel. I feel like parts of me are the same, obviously. I always wanted to be more like how I am now, like more laid back and less having to have everything perfect. And I still like to have some things perfect, you know?
Of course, yeah.
But I always really wanted to be more like this. And then I don't know. I
Yeah.
think the concussion may have helped. I got the concussion that, may have influenced my behavior after like a year. Because that's when we
Yeah.
moved to Puerto Rico. We moved to Puerto Rico a year after my concussion. I remember it went away.
Yeah, I don't
All
know
the
how that
symptoms
works.
I was having went away when we got here. And I can't explain it, but it was like crazy.
Yeah, that is so weird. There's something about it. 'Cause I remember I had a cyst in my hand. I remember I had it, and then I moved to Puerto Rico and it went away. And I was gonna have to I don't know, I went to the doctor for it and stuff, and then it went away when I got to Puerto Rico.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
So
Puerto
weird.
Rico,
Yeah.
there's two
Kind of
things,
cool
this
though.
and concussions.
So if you have a cyst or a concussion,
Move to
check
Puerto
it out.
Rico.
So I think a big thing, like we were kind of talking about, is after she passed away, we had all the support and then it kind of faded out. But we did kind of find support in other ways. Some of it good, some of it not so great. But one of the big things was Intermountain Healing Hearts, which is an organization that supports families who have family members who have congenital heart defects or have had loved ones pass away from congenital heart defects. So my mom, Jenny, got involved in that for about a year, I think you said. Yeah, for about a year. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I can't remember exactly. Did you just start volunteering with them right away, or did we kind of use some of their resources and then that kind of led to you getting involved?
So before we had Gracie, I was connected with them. So because I found out about her heart and the hospital told me about them. They said there's this great resource, Intermountain Healing Hearts. You can look them up on Facebook and they have a great community. So I was able to, before she was born, I was messaging with moms whose kids had this same heart defect and parents whose kids had been in the hospital telling me what to bring, what not to bring, what to do, what not to do, like things they learned while their
That's
kids
so
were in the
cool.
hospital. So it's a really cool organization. Besides, I mean, they do so many things, but one piece of it before she was born was that I could communicate with other moms who had been through the same thing. And these people are amazing. They're still talking on Facebook every day. I still see a lot of posts from them. And so that was a huge support to me before. I had moms checking on her from there. Like the board from Intermountain Healing Hearts came to her celebration of life. They were very supportive. Other moms that were in the hospital were connected through them. So it was a huge connector. And then I don't remember how long after Gracie passed away that I started volunteering for them. I feel like I got on I don't know how many months it was before I got on the board, but my position on the board was the angel liaison. So supporting other parents who had lost children to congenital heart defects. And it was a really cool experience. I feel like they're doing awesome things. Every year they have a walk for healing hearts. They have a birthday party. They have a lot of resources for, I think they have resources for adults with congenital heart defects, but primarily I think they do stuff with children. There are a lot of awesome resources. You can see them all on their website. Maybe you can link to it.
Yeah, I will definitely link to that so you all can find it super easy. But yeah, it's I remember we did that walk. That was through Intermountain Healing Hearts, right?
It was.
We did a walk and it was cool. We had like a big picture of Gracie. Everyone was, I don't know, it was like walking to support it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone bring like a big picture of their child, not just children they've lost, but kids who are still there in the hospital or at home, or there could be a 15-year-old that has been through all of this his whole life and he's there and there's a picture of him and, they're supporting every family.
Yeah. Do you feel like volunteering with them helped you with your grieving process at all?
I think it was actually really hard.
Yeah.
My I feel like it could have, I don't know in the moment, but it was hard at that stage to support other parents who had lost someone when I was still grieving. I think I could have waited a year and then joined in. Maybe I did, though. I don't remember, but I do remember everything felt so big to me that I would support them and do all the things, but it was hard not to just put my whole heart on the line. Like, you can't do everything for them and you can't change their grief, but it was so important to me that these parents had support, which is a good thing. But also, I think every time I heard of another child being lost to a congenital heart defect, it just hurt my heart, and I think that was
Yeah.
a little, and maybe that would still be today, but I feel like if I were to do it today, I would have a lot more perspective than while I'm really deep in that grief cycle, And
Right.
so I feel like it was a good outlet for me, and hopefully I helped some parents. And also, I think that timing was maybe not my best choice.
Yeah, maybe it was still too soon.
Maybe. But they were amazing. No one was like pressuring me to do anything or making anything hard. It was all me just, still going through it. But the people on the board are awesome. It's such a good organization. They donate money to families for medical bills. It's not just support as far as emotional or connectivity or support in the hospital. It also is financial support. So families can apply for grants and get help with their medical bills. And that's really awesome. And
it's just a huge support network for so many different aspects on so many different levels. And it is really cool and it's also cool to me too, because like the common theme here, is the congenital heart defect, but everyone's experience and situation is different. But they're they're providing a network, they're providing activities, they're providing emotional support, they're providing financial support while they're still working through things, support into adulthood, support into after the death, and for the families and for the people. And so it's just like they're kind of covering, like they've got this one theme, which is congenital heart defect, but then they're kind of covering all of these aspects of it, which is really cool. And I feel like through it, we went to some, like, what would you call it? They were like therapy, not therapy though. What were they? What would you call that? Like a group, I guess group therapy? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what you call it. Like group therapy sessions. And they weren't they weren't great. So we had like some resources that weren't really, I mean, for other people, maybe they were, but for us, maybe not. But I think that Intermountain Healing Hearts is the one that even when I was like 12 stood out to me. And I think that's something I really appreciate about them is they kind of helped keep her memory alive a little bit in a way, because maybe because you were volunteering with them, but it wasn't like she died, now we're not like a part of it anymore. It was like they still supported us. And even still, now I've been working with them a little bit, for this podcast episode. And then also, for anyone who doesn't know, I wrote a children's book that's going to be coming out in April, and it's going to be to raise money for this organization as well. And I've been working with them a little bit in that. And it's like, even now, years later, they're like so supportive of Gracie's story and of me and my experience. And it's just really cool. Like, there's no like weird, like rule. No, it's just, they just want to give, and they want to give all their resources. They want to give all their love and support. And that's really cool to me. Doesn't feel like there's weird, there's a catch or there's weird conditions or,
yeah, and
it's been 5 years, you're done.
Right. I think that every parent on the board, at least when I was on the board, has had or has a child with a congenital heart defect. So they really understand. They've been there. They've been through it. That part of it did help with my grief, that having the support of these people, like having someone who understood, having someone who could take care of me and knew what I'd gone through or was about to go through, or, they were there every step of the way. That is an incredible resource. And not just the board, the people, the members, they're super supportive. You can ask them anything and they'll respond. They care. They're invested. They've been there. They know what you're going through. So, I mean, I could post today and there would be support for me. So,
yeah.
It's pretty
It's
awesome.
just so cool. And just helping families feel less alone in their experience. It's really special, I think. Yeah. Well, I will link their website and also their donation page. So if anyone wants to check it out or donate, they can go ahead and do that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having this conversation with me. I feel like it's a hard one to have, especially recorded.
It was
But I
good.
appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me. I think it's important to talk about and important to raise awareness and for people, on your podcast to understand where you're coming from. This is a big part of your history in your life.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I've thought about that. Like, I often get, often people tell me that I don't know, I get compliments a lot about, my energy or that, I've had people tell me, my friend Caitlin, she's told me, she's like, every time, I'll go up to her and just, touch her head. And she's like, every time you touch me, I just, immediately, calm down. Or I'll, often get complimented that people will come up to me, I saw you walk in the room and you had, such a nice energy, kind of. But I think that a lot of where that comes from is, this depth I have from having really big experiences, from losing Gracie's probably the biggest one, but also, leaving the church and, just, traveling and moving. And yeah, I think just having these really big experiences creates so much depth, I guess. So I feel like it is a huge reason of who I am and the way that I am. And maybe part of that energy that people always compliment is because I feel more, I guess more depth and more vulnerability, just because I have some of those, not to sound cheesy, but just scars on my heart, kind of
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely
We'll wrap
feel that
up
way
there.
about you.
Thanks.
Can you come pat my head?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, love you.
Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to mention again the organization I highlighted for Podcasthon, Intermountain Healing Hearts. Their mission is to support families with members with CHD or families who have lost a child to CHD by creating spaces and resources where parents and loved ones can connect, share their stories, and grieve together. Having community during loss can make such a difference, and organizations like this help families know they're not alone. If today's conversation resonated with you in any way, I'll leave a link in the show notes where you can learn more about their work, support them, or share their mission. And to my sister, Gracie, thank you for being part of our story and for continuing to shape our lives even now. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.